From the west side of Chicago, it's the Greg Struss Show. I'm Scotty Joe Vegas, inviting you to stay tuned for the next 30 minutes as we explore Elmhurst and her undercarriage. And now, Minister Louis Farrakhan's yoga instructor, Mr. Gregory Struss.
Thank you, and I welcome
Here we
you
go.
to the Greg Struss Show once again, coming to you from Studio One here in the lovely downtown Elmhurst. Now, the funny thing was, Scott, I drove through Elmhurst today, and Elmhurst is really a beautiful community. There's a downtown by the train. There's a metro.
You remember all the times I would tell you about that?
You have a bunch of little shops down there, and the people are very friendly out here.
They are.
Yeah, but for some reason, it's like when you're doing a media type show, you got to be where the action is. And that's like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, but I find that Elmhurst has its own little exquisite kind of ambiance,
Correct,
as it will. So we're sitting around talking before the show tonight and discussing, because we other than when we do the show, we really don't have a chance to see each other, do we? Am I in his shot, by the way? Okay, there we are.
Two different.
You went on vacation, which seems to be like an ongoing thing, and good for you.
Good for me.
Where was I going? But we haven't seen each other. Like we don't, where we used to talk about it all the time. I don't know. Are you here tonight?
I'm here.
Okay, there you are. Over a little bit.
Me.
And so, Bob, is everything okay? Bob never usually leaves the control room, but he's coming out today. Is everything all
He's
right?
having his first cigarette.
He's having a cigarette break right now in the studio. No, just a joke. You can't smoke out here. But eating fish is still okay, right?
As long as it doesn't stink.
Yeah. Now, I didn't quite understand the open because you said Louis Farrakhan.
Louis Farrakhan. Yes.
And I'm his yoga instructor.
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't know. My Starbuck abs haven't really taken to that thing. But I think it'd be kind of fascinating to sit down with Minister Farrakhan and talk about some of the things that he's experienced in his life. Hmm? But everything is like so political now. It's like that if you host someone with an alternative point of view, that all of a sudden you're kind of labeled as what? Being as either supporting them or
The fake news.
Yeah, the fake news, as they say.
Sorry.
So, I don't know. Lots of news going on with Fox News Channel, where it was reported that Bill O'Reilly and the Fox News Network had settled somewhere in the area of $13 million in sexual harassment lawsuits, like to pay these people off.
It happens.
Yeah, and I don't really understand that whole thing.
Well, when they sit up there with their legs crossed, like they got it all clean, sunshine box down there. I love it. I watch it all the time. Sorry.
God, the sun. Now, see, some people would.
Is that sexual harassment? Kinda.
Well, and I guess like about a week or so, well, I don't know, it was a while ago, but recently, that he made a comment about like, is it even proper for me to say black, or do I have to say African American? I prefer saying black.
How do we know that they're not Jamaican?
Well, exactly. And
or
so,
from Philly.
So anyway, he made a comment that this, I don't know if it's a Congress lady or a senator who had James Brown hair. He said that she had a wig that looked like James Brown, and people took offense to that. But here's another example of somebody who's in a prime time slot, making a lot of dough.
Successful and white and over 40.
White, over 40, and people are going at him. But it's not to excuse the fact that he probably has a pattern of behavior that is doing this. Because if somebody's been sued 5 times, it's kind of like what happened to Bob Barker. When they yelled, "Come on down," it meant something else behind the scenes.
Do you know why he had a thin microphone?
Why was that?
I don't know. I was just kind of wondering.
I did too. Anyway, tonight we have taboo topics ranging from companies that complain about never being able to find qualified help, but yet continue to pay a very low scale of money for those jobs.
Correctamundo, Mississippi.
And if it comes down to this. You reach a certain age, as I'm looking closer to 50, and I've done different things in my life and have different skill sets. I'm continually bombarded by people that want to hire me, but don't really want to pay a professional wage. And I don't understand that. We're going to talk a little bit about that.
It's because you're white, over 40.
Because I'm white and over 40. I
And
don't
you
buy
lost
any
a few
of that.
steps.
And you know what? I really think that it's up to the individual. You know, there's always a room for negotiation, always room to talk, but sometimes it's like, really? You know, we're going to talk about this, about, you know, the fact of getting a formal education and thinking that you know, and buying into the belief system that you're going to be able to have a better life and better opportunities in your professional life if you have a college education. All right?
If you don't have a job,
so I
you
think
don't have
that's a good one. If you don't have a job, you don't have, you know, and really, what is a career? A career, when it boils down to it, is a job, but to a man, I think it's a big part of his identity. And I think that's a big thing, too, that we can talk about. So make those notes, because I don't know if I'll remember it.
I won't.
Anyway, we're going to, I'm so glad that you're back. I really am.
You mean I'm in the central...
We've been dark, like my neighborhood, for parts of my neighborhood. ComEd didn't come out and fix the electric. No, I'm just kidding.
Hello.
So it's good to see you, and
good to see
now
you.
I guess you're going to be jet-setting somewhere else again, huh? Is that
I'll
true?
I'll be on the farm.
Well, I'll promise to get a haircut, too.
I'll be on the farm.
Anyway, I'm Greg. It's so good for you to join us. I don't think that I ever thank our viewer, did you get it?
I got it.
For tuning in and making this thing real, all right? We appreciate that. We don't have a chance to really express our gratitude, but I think gratitude is very important, and hopefully another thing that we might talk about too. Okay, anyway, I'm Greg. This is The Greg Show, and we are reinventing community television here from the west side of Chicago. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back after this.
Welcome from Bill's Trick Shop in Hickory Hills, co-owner Bill Hunt Jr., right?
How you doing there?
Hi, Bill.
You know, I found this little kid in your bathroom here. I don't know whether, I think no, but actually, this is just a puppet. We call him Baby Stinky. You know,
Is baby
he'll be
Stinky?
fine. Don't worry about it.
What is...
And welcome back to the Greg Struss Show. I am Greg Struss along with Scotty Joe Vegas,
Hey!
Scotty Joe Florida, Scotty Joe Southern California,
Scotty Joe Hollywood.
Scotty Joe Hollywood. Yeah. What's
Yeah.
the deal with that? You went to Hollywood?
I took my little girl out to Beverly Hills to go see Yossi, that Yossi from Beverly Hills Pawn. And I had to show my daughter that I met him before in Tunica, Mississippi, before he was famous on his show, Beverly Hills Pawn. And he thought I was probably a deranged man that came into his store. But he did remember me, and he was nice to me and my little girl. And the psychics talked about him in the 90s, that I would beat him and I'd be in Beverly Hills, and I was.
Now take me through that journey, because did the psychic know that reality TV was going to be all the...
She talked about Beverly Hills Pawn. So I was like, what does that have to do with me? And why am I in Beverly Hills? So she was like, you're just going to be there. And to hear, like, when you're 21, 24 years old, you hear you're going to be in Beverly Hills. Did I make it? Am I a star? And it didn't happen.
Do you remember when I was at... It is hot in here.
Thank you, Yossi, if I just wanted to just clear that up. Thank you for showing some hospitality, and I'm sorry for scaring all your employees. Sorry.
How did you scare them?
So I just walked in and says, hey, is Yossi in? And they're all like, why, do you know Yossi? I'm like, I met him in Tunica, Mississippi.
And he's like, where's that?
Oh, you knew where Tunica
People in
was.
Beverly Hills?
Oh, yeah.
So is he Middle Eastern?
He's an Israeli. He looks like Yul Brynner.
Okay. Older guy? I've never watched that
He's
show.
an older fella. He's
Was
a
that the
good-looking
one that
man.
was on A&E for a long time?
Yes, and they would smile with the teeth, and he came around the corner. All you heard that song was money, 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 money.
I remember we did a show from Columbia College. Do you remember that show? We had a psychic on. I think you were there that night. And it was a shorter man, and he said, you will be, he was telling me, gave me a reading, and he said, you will be at the height of your success in television by the when you're 35 years old. 3 people will play a key role in your success. And I was waiting, like when I was 35, I thought, well, the psychic told me when I was 35, I would, be at the height of my success. And that never really, what is success? That's the big question. I find that success is, I think there's lots of little layers of success and levels of success, okay? One of those things that if I'm able to stay debt-free now, it goes down to that simple thing that maybe I don't make a lot of money, I'm not making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but I probably have saved more on making less than what most people with a higher pay grade are doing. So it's kind of like you fall in love with going to Gibson's every night for steak. So instead of going to Gibson's, I might go to the Rainbow Restaurant for a skirt steak instead. But I'd rather go to Gibson's.
Well, there is a lot of people that are successful that says, the stuff after a while gets old because you get it and you're just like, well, it's not really what I want. A simple life, a simple wife, like an Alabama song, the stove's cooking, biscuits are cooking. And
But when you were married, did you find that...
it was one big overhead mistake move after another.
But I mean, like, the wife, it seems like a lot of wives, and I'm not going to sound sexist here or misogynistic in any way. It's just
I'll
what
take your
I
place.
have experienced and what I've seen, and especially with, various members of my family and their husbands, is some of the decisions that they've made without their husbands. And just like this level of, like either money grows on trees or that I don't have to consult with my partner in order to make a major deal that both of us are on the hook for.
I probably got a house $60,000 too much that I probably could afford. I mean, we were both making good dough, but it's like that weighs on you kids. If you get that overhead, no overhead, you got it made. Have her daddy have a trailer park and a liquor store.
Am I sounding like I have a tone tonight? I'm feeling like I'm sounding like I have a tone, and I don't mean to have a tone. There's been a lot of things that have kind of come to light for me in the last week or two as I look for other employment and realize that a new field, and I've had several different fields that I've worked in, because I didn't want to go to college, but I was always told that you need to get an education, so I went and finished that. I always wanted to do TV. That's all I thought I would be doing from the time I was 15 until then. And I came to realize, like in the last week or so, that, oh my gosh, what did I want to be when I was younger? Probably up until about 9th grade. 8th grade, 9th grade, I wanted to be a priest.
I was going to say veterinarian. Boy,
No,
was I wrong.
I wanted to be a priest.
You'd be a good priest.
No, and then I fell in love with the microphone, which is also a phallic symbol, and I enjoyed talking. I know that I enjoyed talking.
Maybe you're supposed to work for
people.
the phone company.
No, I had offers, and
Okay.
and I never wanted to do that either. So I've done different communications kind of work, but again, it's I fell in love with counseling because I enjoyed helping people, and then I start to realize that what, maybe I'm giving too much of myself, professionally and personally, because what happens is, I went to school. I got a bachelor's degree. I earned that bachelor's degree. It took me 9 years to finish that. I know I'm boring you, Scott. But the fact is that I got up every day in that period of time. It took me that long to finish. And then I was told, why don't you go on to your master's degree? So I started the master's degree as I was doing another television show. And it never dawned on me that 20 years after the fact, that I'd be working for less money or working for the same amount of money as a high school graduate in a field
that's a
that
scam.
helps people. And it's a scam. It really is, in my opinion, because companies are able to make millions of dollars, but yet keep the industry a certain standard. One of the things that comes
That's
up...
globalization.
That is globalization.
That's globalization.
And so why are people upset when the president makes comments about America first?
Because people have it really good right now because they get on their phone, they're like, I want this and I want it now. Screw the consequences. They're cherry picking businesses. And when you look around, there's a Hyundai on the road. There's a Yugo on the road. There's a Mercedes on the road. There's a Honda on the road. There's a Toyota on the road. I mean, That's globalization. Before it was Fords, Chevys. What's the other one? Dodge.
Okay, are you of the feeling or the belief that American people should not be driving foreign cars? Because most of these foreign cars are manufactured, a lot of them are manufactured
When
here.
NAFTA was let through, that was the turn point of our country. Because people, then it made it so available and undercut everybody that you can't keep a job at the GM plant because we're getting cars from over there.
Mm-hmm.
You went to school to be an engineer, we don't need you no more. Same thing.
Yeah, so...
You got a Sony in your TV room. Your Frigidaire isn't a Frigidaire no more. It's made somewhere else.
But a lot of those companies are manufacturing some of the components here.
And
So
they're
it's
undercutting, all the other rest of the country, are like the other countries, are undercutting the shit out of us. Yeah. So there needs to be a tax, a TIF. That's the way it is.
What do you feel about this? You take a look at a company like Walmart, all right? Walmart, Sam's Club, global company,
Yep.
multi-billion-dollar business, all right? And they basically sell crap products, okay? I go to the store, but they're not American-made products. They're cheap. And what's worse is that this multi-billion-dollar organization tells their minimum wage help, which they're really irritated about having to pay anything. I think a lot of these people get to the point of, well, we are providing jobs, but $8.25 an hour. And yet this multi-billion-dollar company, which receives tax incentives from the United States government, tells their you can get your health insurance through the government. So then the government is still subsidizing a multi-billion-dollar global organization while the help does what?
Why do they only make $8? It's because the guy in Mexico is making $6 or $5 or $4.
Yeah. There's, I don't know. To me, there is something really wrong with this. And when I talk to people...
And this isn't a race thing.
No.
This is money.
This is a real thing.
This
I
is
don't
a money
care.
thing. This is American
Yeah,
thing.
and you know what? Walmart employs black people, white people, Hispanic people, Chinese
Transgender?
people, transgender people, and they don't give them a living wage. And I think there's a problem with that. And you know what? I got into discussions with business owners about that. And you know what? You're the kind of guy I don't like. And I'm like, why? Because I'm calling it as I see it?
But those people can't get out of Walmart because every other place is closed down.
Yeah.
They can't get a job.
So
The education part was you pay your money up front, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go to school. If we don't have jobs here, what's the sense of going to school? You ain't going to get a job.
No.
You're and that's why we should charge more for education, because if you're serious about education, you should pay for it.
All right, but here's the deal. Education has gone up.
It should go up
Typically,
more.
3 times. Now, you're going to have to look this up. I'm almost positive it's 2 to 3 times the rate of inflation.
All right.
Okay? Yet, jobs are not paying. Now, this is what I've noticed, and I'm thinking to myself, am I really starting to show that I'm a middle-aged man, that I'm starting to talk about these things so openly and blatantly? Because it's like, what's wrong with this picture? All right, milk continues to go up, but yet your hourly wage stays the same. So these little companies like Uber come along, again, a global company, multi-billion-dollar organization, but yet they don't pay their drivers a squat. They're 1099 employees, meaning they have to pay on the front and back of their pay taxes, okay, Social Security, all that stuff. And then the owner of the company doesn't even create a situation where they can get tipped. Oh, well, that's just figured into the thing. But yet he's a multi, in charge of the...
Think all those cab drivers sitting there
They
going,
got screwed.
They
The
got
taxi
screwed.
people
They
got
got
screwed.
screwed.
And-
Globalization.
Yeah, so now I'm starting to understand it, that those things that I was for 20 years ago, as I was, a senior in college at Grand Valley State University in a marketing class.
Sure wasn't 25?
It's like 22, 23, 24 years ago.
Thank you.
All right? So I had I can't remember her name. She was just a lovely lady from India, and she used to always say, when you go to McDonald's and you buy a hamburger and Coke, and how that's marketed, and then how things are marketed, but nobody told us what NAFTA was going to become. And I was all for that, because it's like, oh, free trade is good, and da-da-da. And all it did was lower the hourly wage and remove thousands of service jobs.
Thousands? Thousands?
Thousands?
Millions.
Hundreds of thousands?
Millions.
You think it was millions?
We lost millions of jobs in that because that went somewhere else. And the one thing about NAFTA is it's too big, it's too broad of an area that how much we actually lost. Because we're sitting there on our phone, looking there, chewing our gum, and the drug culture, I was out west and out south, Miami, everywhere, and our country is really suffering from drugs. I believe the administration should go after drugs because people get it everywhere. Heroin.
It is, and
it's everywhere.
we're suffering from so many different things.
People don't do their good jobs when they're on drugs. Trust me, I know.
Well, and let's be honest, a lot of those folks that are doing those kinds of drugs can't hold on to a job. There are highly,
Or they settle for a
functioning-
job at Walmart.
Yeah, and I
No
don't know.
pressure, right? I got my government bennies.
We were talking
What the hell?
beforehand, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've had several different career paths, and quite frankly, after 2 or 3 years of each of them, I'm just like, you know what? I've mastered this. Like, I'm bored. And yet, oh, you've mastered this. You're like one of the few people that gets it, but I can't pay you anymore. So what do I do?
That's the price of
And
being
then
over
and then
40 and
got,
white.
Yeah, and then I got lectures about how, well, you know, you need to do this and you need to do that. No, what I need to do, and this is another thing, I started digging through some of my old journals. I kept a journal ever since my freshman year of college.
The ones that fell down on the shelf in the garage.
And long story short, I started looking through some of this stuff and reading about how I felt about things 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and how things have changed. And you know what? As I mature, I have the right to change my politics. I have the right to change my belief system based on what I see, all right? Based on what I see and what I witness in my life. I just don't buy the Kool-Aid that everybody's selling now.
Here's what I just got to say.
We gotta wrap this up.
I
Go
got to
ahead.
say one thing. Miami, they got like 4 big cranes from China down there, and these ships come in, and they imported these from China, these humongous cranes, and you should see all the stuff that goes into our country that we didn't make. Billy in California or Nevada, he ain't making shit, and we're sitting there. The only thing we make is fast food shit, meaning we eat it and then we shit it out, and that's it. We don't make anything. We don't make rubber. We don't make crap. We just make shit. Oh, look at me. I've got my McDonald's. Well, no. That comes from damn China.
The beef. The beef. What's your beef? Anyway, when we return, we're gonna have some taboo topics and continue.
rocking.
And I think this is a taboo topic.
It is.
Globalization is a taboo topic.
There's a Sony
And
in your
I
bedroom.
think it's like, you know what? You watch some of these shows. I know we're gonna go, Bob. You watch some of these shows, and they talk about this stuff, and you're thinking like, I'm gonna click the channel, and then somebody else is pushing their version of the BS. And you know what? I don't want to buy it anymore, and I hope you don't either. And we'll return in just a moment. Thanks for joining us.
Amazon this.
Okay, welcome
right.
back. We are here on the Greg Struss Show every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock here on Xfinity Comcast in the west side of Chicago, as well as on youtube.com with the search words Greg Struss Show, where we have been now for almost 5 years, all right? And I consider us, you know, I've been watching some of these old shows as I've been going through some of my old journals and trying to figure out where I'm at in my life and what I've done, and you know what comes from that? It's called wisdom, all right? I think the wisdom is that when we reach full-fledged adulthood, we no longer have to subscribe to other people's belief system, all right? So what we're hearing in the news, how do I, you know, and this is just my opinion tonight, okay? I don't, you know, am I speaking fact? I'm speaking fact from my life. It may not have anything to do with you, and maybe you don't even relate to it. But I think there's a kernel of something that we all can relate to here.
I love kernels. Kernels of corn. Love kernels of corn.
But I guess I guess where the reality is that I'm starting to see that, you know what, I am now officially a middle-aged man, and I've had an interesting life. And now that I'm looking at, you know, closer to the upper numbers than I am the lower numbers. I don't know. Am I afraid to grow up? I don't think I'm afraid to grow up. I'm tired of people not valuing me. Does that make sense? Valuing me in terms of like an employer, an employee.
You're not in
kind
a
of
safe
thing.
area.
Yeah. So
But
I don't
maybe
know
you're
if maybe that's an expectation. Maybe
Maybe
expect
you're a
too
pain in
much.
the ass.
I don't.
I mean, not to be,
Right.
but maybe you don't know it. Some people need to be told they're a pain in the ass.
When I say that an employer doesn't appreciate that, let me go back. I've had wonderful employers. I guess where I'm at now is that I'm starting to see that it's all about who. It's all about me, but it's not. It's all about you. It's not all about me. Because when I start talking about my needs, then I'm being difficult, right? And in any relationship, 50-50 give and take, yeah, you sign up for the job. But it doesn't necessarily mean you got to stay in the job forever. You get married, okay? Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be married forever.
That is true.
And, that's the hope, because getting married, it's a bond, it's a sacred bond if you believe in God and you do it in a church or what have you. It's a relationship, there's a bond, there's something there. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to last forever. Because we change, we grow, and we experience different things. And damn it, that's what happened with the internet and text messaging as far as I'm concerned. So Taboo Topic, we were talking about sexual harassment in the workplace.
Ooh.
And Bill O'Reilly. Now here's another example. $20 million a year Bill O'Reilly, his show generates more revenue for the Fox News channel than any other television show in that bracket. Mm-hmm. So word leaked out via the New York Post and CNN, of course, with that little, do you ever watch Brian Stelter?
I just watch the cross-legged girls on the Fox News. That's where they sit there and
Okay, so
I get a little soft bone.
So anyway, they start talking about Bill O'Reilly and how he settled his sexual harassment claims under the table, so to speak.
She is probably a Democrat.
It doesn't really matter. The point is this. It seems like people have a different set of rules when they have money.
Oh.
And if you're number one, I saw it in the car sales business, I saw it in the automotive business, I've seen it in the mortgage industry, I've seen it in other places. People that are number one and are the top producers usually are the most difficult to deal with and play by a different set of rules than the rest of the class.
Word.
So I think going forward, what's going to be interesting to watch is that if this happens again, where someone else comes forward saying that Mr. O'Reilly sexually harassed them, I think all bets are off. And nobody is beyond reproach and being fired. Because when the pressure gets to be too much, now already 9 sponsors have pulled out of that show. And but it's $100 million, $104 million, I think, a year is what they make on that show. And that's nothing, it's just talking heads. What could we do with $104 million? You know what I could do with $4,000 a year? So, I don't know. I just think that that's, again, another example of people having to play by a different set of rules. And it's just like the globalization and all of those things, right?
Yep.
So we don't have to get back to the folk here.
When they put the tax for everything coming in the country, I would say make it 35%, make it 40%. We'll have a little bit of inflation, but we got to build our country back.
But who's going to be, and here's the deal, with more taxes, like when are we going to reach a point, like the 7 cents a bag tax in Chicago is ridiculous. Yeah, well, it fills up landfills, but 7 cents a bag. And I refuse to pay 7 cents for a bag, not because I don't have 7 cents, but because I think it's ridiculous. Something you go shop